Amber, what do you have?
I have our object lesson, and our object lesson is super simple today. It's just a handout that Mrs. Jenny will put up, and you can print it out and you can follow along with what we're going to do here. So it's going to say to fold your paper down the center, kind of like you did with your paper people, like you do with a greeting card. Now, I already started to write on mine, so I'm going to put another paper on top of it to cover it up. But your paper will say messy mystery at the top. But I have this right here. Can you see those? You see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it says? Can you make out what that is?
Age rice.
Age rice. Mrs. Jessica, what do you think it says?
I want to say that it says ace, and then I'm gonna go with Miss Jenny and say rice as well.
All right, age rice and age rice is what we're going with, yeah?
Yes.
All right. Well, and that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take your hand out, fold it like it says, and then you're going to have people try and figure out what the message is. In the meantime, while everybody's thinking about if that's correct or not, we are going to write down some things about ourselves, because our lesson today is about being God's masterpiece. And we're all created by God in his image, the way he wants us to be. He wants us to look a certain way and have different capabilities than each other, because if we all had the same gifts, I mean, it'd be boring. We need different gifts so we can have different people, so we can work together. God wants us to be together. Adam had a helper. He had Eve, because after he named all those animals, they were wonderful creations, but still none of the animals really seemed like a good fit for Adam. So God made him a helper. So he made Eve especially the way he wanted her to be, and Adam the way he wanted them to be. And in their own, they were both masterpieces. And we're all masterpieces. And I know sometimes it's hard to remember that, because sometimes somebody don't look the way we want them to look, or it may just bother us. Maybe it's something we're not used to, or maybe they act rude to us and therefore we don't like that. Or maybe you just know that sometimes people, maybe they just smell weird to you and you don't want to be around them. So you're like, how can that be a masterpiece? How did God create that as a masterpiece? And as much as we can sit there and say that about other people, which he made them all different because we need variety, we also have a hard time sometimes thinking of ourselves as a masterpiece. Sometimes we get down on ourselves and we're like, I can't be that special. God must have done something wrong when he made me, because I can't do this and I can't do that, or I may not be this tall or this short, or, these friends don't like me and I just want to be friends with them. So something must have went wrong, right? But that's not so. What you're going to do is write a few things in this space up top. After you fold your paper, you're going to write a couple things and we're going to think about it. So I put math is kind of hard for me, so I must not be smart with numbers. And I put, I don't look like the girls in the popular magazines, so I guess I'm just not pretty, or it's not what people think is pretty, right? What is something that you think God might have messed up with, Mrs. Jenny?
Sometimes I think about things in too hard of a way, so I think he made me a little bit more complicated.
I'm complicated. I don't think things simple, I guess.
Yeah.
Mrs. Jessica?
I think that sometimes I take things too personally, so I'm gonna go with overly sensitive.
Now, if we see these well, that can't be a masterpiece because obviously that's a mess up, right? We consider that to be a mess up. How can a masterpiece, we think of perfection, right? Like everything typically where it's supposed to be, there's no flaws or anything like that. But that's not so. What we consider our imperfections are what God purposely put for us, either so we can learn how to grow. We meet people along the way that may have similar malfunctions or whatever you want to call it, that aren't considered to be perfect, and we help each other out. Like me with math, it's not that I'm not smart, I just take a little bit longer to understand it. So God gives us people that are really good at it, and they help me to understand. And then maybe they're not very good at cooking. That doesn't mean that they're not smart. It just means that I have something to offer back to them. You helped me learn my numbers and get better in my math skills, so let me help you learn how to cook so you can eat better food and not have to go out all the time, you know? You, Mrs. Jessica, may think you take things too personally or you're being too sensitive, but I say that you being oversensitive might balance out the fact that I'm insensitive. We need each other to work, you know? We might have a problem going on and I'll be like, let them deal with it themselves, they're grown. And Mrs. Jessica is like, no. Think about how it would make you feel. And I think you're being insensitive. You need to be more sensitive. So we help balance each other out, right? Or Mrs. Jenny, I think that I do that too, and kind of overthink something and make it a little more complicated than it needs to be. Like with my math numbers, I'll look at numbers and I'll get scared. And so I'm like, well, I got to do this, and maybe that goes there and carry the 2 here. When really it's not. It's just like, hey, just divide that number by that number. Why did you add 5 more steps to it? But that's how we get new ways of thinking about stuff. You know, sometimes we think too simply and we need to think bigger so we can have these amazing buildings and bridges, you know, instead of just having a little square with a door and a window, right? I go above, and all together, we don't have aged rice or anything. We have a masterpiece. See, when it was just part, it was imperfect. We thought it was aged rice or something with rice, and then it up and we go, no, it's us, and together we're a masterpiece, right?
Oh,
There might be some silly mistakes with this person or that person or even ourselves. That's not so. God did it for a reason, and together we all work together. We're individually masterpieces with our imperfections and all, and together we are God's creation, and it is a beautiful masterpiece. And like God said, it is very good. Thank you so much for joining me, Kingdom Kids. We love you, and so does God. And here's Mrs. Jessica.